Good evening, you're watching Awani Tonight, and I'm Soraya Mia. Malaysia drops 7 spots in world competitiveness rankings. And experts urge Malaysia to prepare for cyber warfare risks. That's coming up. The government has to pay off a $3 billion loan taken by 1MDB to fund the Tun Razak Exchange TRX project. Former Finance Ministry Sekjen Datuk Siti Zawiyah Muhammad Desa told the High Court in Datuk Seri Najib Razak's 1MDB trial today that the government served as the guarantor for the loan.
She testified that Najib had signed a letter of support in 2013 for the $3 billion loan through a bond issued by 1MDB's subsidiary and that it had failed to make repayments according to the terms of the debt. Siti Zawiyah added that it was unclear how the subsidiary had spent the money as the state investment firm had failed to provide any updates to her division in the Finance Ministry. The $3 billion fundraising was purportedly for investments via a planned joint venture between 1MDB and Abu Dhabi's Arba Investments PJS, but it is now known that 1MDB had instead dealt with a fake company that had similar names to Arba. Siti Zawiyah also said no government representatives were appointed as 1MDB directors, despite the company being a part of MOF Inc. Siti Zawiyah testified as the 26th prosecution witness in Najib's trial over the misappropriation of more than 2 billion ringgit of 1MDB funds.
425 kilometers of Malaysia's coastline is affected by coastal erosion. The National Coastal Vulnerability Index categorized 70 coastal zones as highly vulnerable.
Meanwhile, rising sea levels are expected to affect more than 20,000 hectares of coastal areas by 2030. 123,000 hectares of saturated built-up areas are also at risk of being hit by a tsunami. The Department of Town and Country Planning produced the National Coastal Zone Physical Plan, which was approved by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob in October last year. It contains strategic plans on land use, environmental conservation and management along 3,800 kilometers of coastline in Peninsular Malaysia and the Federal Territory of Labuan.
Malaysia ranked 32nd in the 2022 International Institute for Management Development IMD World Competitiveness Ranking. This was down 7 positions from the 25th spot last year. Commenting on the decline, Bagan MP and former Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng calls for urgent reforms in governance, citing government red tape, policy complacency and flip-flops as major reasons for the poor performance. The Malaysian economy currently faces soaring prices and high cost of living, driven by supply chain disruptions and a weakening ringgit, but other Asian nations do not fare as well. Thailand fell from 28th to 33rd spot and Indonesia from 37th to 44th, driven by the slow reopening of the economies post-COVID-19. China dropped 1 spot to 16th position as economic recovery was halted by its zero-COVID strategy. Singapore moved up from 5th to 3rd spot with substantial improvements across its economic sector, while India recorded the sharpest rise among the Asian economies, moving from 43rd to 37th spot after 4 stagnant years. The 2022 World Competitiveness Ranking assessed 63 economies, reflecting their relative speed of recovery. Applications are now open for the digital content grants under the Malaysian Creative Industry Stimulus Package 2022. The grant, which was introduced by MDEC last year, aims to promote the continuity and sustainability of the country's creative industry. The Digital Content Grant 2022 offers financing of up to 50,000 ringgit to companies to develop digital content in the form of animation, comics, interactive media and games. Selected applicants will present their ideas in August before approval is announced by September this year, after which they are given a period of 6 months to complete their digital content. MDEC approved 1.9 million ringgit in grants last year, benefiting 39 applicants. Astro Awani retains its ranking as the most trusted news brand in Malaysia for the 5th consecutive year. Based on the 2022 Digital News Report by Reuters Institute and Oxford University, Astro Awani ranked first with 64% on brand trust scores. The star climbed to second position with 56%, followed by Malaysia Kini 54%, Sinar Harian and RTM both 53%. The report said Astro Awani and Malaysia Kini remain at the top due to a balanced yet critical approach, as well as independence of the news portals. Malaysia and Australia have a long tradition of cooperation in education, giving Malaysian students a rich diversity of education offerings without traveling far. Here with us to share what's in the pipeline for the budding partnership is Professor Patricia Davidson, Vice Chancellor and President of University of Wollongong.
We're really keen to be able to integrate our Malaysian campus into the UOW global ecosystem. We're so excited about the programs that are here, from gaming through to hospitality and healthcare. So we're really wanting to increase that bench strength of those programs, and to also look at the inflow of Malaysian students into Australia, but also Australian students visiting here. And also, universities are also beacons for innovation and discovery. We're really hoping that there'll be much more global collaboration. And then the other thing is, I'm really excited that here in Malaysia, you have other excellent Australian universities, Monash, Curtin, Swinburne, and just today we've been meeting, and to see, how can we give Malaysian students that Australian experience, and also access, we hope, to the increasing amount of investment that the Australian government will be making to our ASEAN partners.
Patricia advocates for more education scholarship to be handed out to those deserving as a way to narrow the gap between the rich and the poor.
Around the world, we're looking at this sort of lag effect, because we've graduated one cohort of students and then we're just enrolling them now. So I think the next 2 years are going to be more challenging. But I also think we need to think about how we can support students financially. What the pandemic has shown us, that families who could always afford to send their children to university are going to keep doing that. But the gaps between the rich and the poor have become more challenging. So I think we need to look at more scholarships, more incentives to support the workforce.
We'll take a quick break. Stay with us.
COVID-19 memperlihatkan kepada kita betapa pantasnya adaptasi teknologi di kalangan PKS kita. Niaga Awani dan Unified Business akan menyelami perjalanan kebangkitan semula PKS kita melalui segmen Jiwa SME setiap Selasa dan Khamis untuk inspirasi anda.
Transformasikan perniagaan dengan Unified Business, rakan digital pilihan anda. Hubungi kami sekarang dan jimat sehingga 50%. Jom Unified Business.
Kes HFMD ini menyaksikan peningkatan lebih 15 kali ganda.
Untuk Malaysia kurangkan kadar kemalangan, negara kita perlu lakukan pelaburan besar dalam pengangkutan awam rel.
Cubaan untuk membunuh diri. Di Selangor saja ada terima 38 panggilan.
Welcome back. Frequency of cyber attacks around the world has become a cause for concern. Most recently, there has been evidence of cyber attacks against Ukrainian targets, even weeks before Russia's invasion. Reuters reported that as Russian forces entered eastern Ukraine, hackers crippled tens of thousands of satellite internet modems in Ukraine and across Europe. To help us understand how cyber wars could impact the region, as well as how to strengthen Malaysian cybersecurity, is NanoSec Asia's Razwan Mokhtar.
We observe a lot of attacks came from Russia to Ukraine. Example, there's a ransomware and also a decoy for ransomware to try to wipe out. There's a malware they call Wiper. the wiper malware will the function of the malware to destroy the computers, not try to steal informations, not try to ransom you, but the point of the malware will be to destroy and to make sure you will not boot up anymore. It can't be started. So you can see the motivation is come from a different way already. Yeah, this is part of it. And of course, Ukrainians, the Ministry of Information Technology, what he did, he gathered people around the world, right? And they tried to play the sentiment of whereby he asked everybody to help, and we have like 300,000 people in the group try to DDoS attack, hack the government's financial industry in Russia, and also what they do, they also attack energy sector and also media.
Although Malaysia is not involved in the cyber warfare between Ukraine and Russia, Razwan urged more awareness on cybersecurity and its systems that are potential weapons for future conflicts.
On the technology part, we need to make sure that we have a good equipment or tools to do the investigations or to protect the countries, right? And then the process part, right? We need to have a proper way to identify and to report and to escalate the problems, so we can do a faster response, because we cannot wait, because we speak about millisecond of attacks, so this is very fast. On the people itself, this is, I think, government been pushing this. We are lacking of workforce in cybersecurity for 30,000 in Malaysia itself. So Malaysia, MDEC, MCMC, NAXA, it's a lot of departments in the government been trying to reach out and to create this readiness on the manpower or workforce.
On the international front, Indonesian President Joko Widodo announced a cabinet reshuffle today, the third time during his second term in office. Among the changes announced was a new trade minister. This was following controversy over a series of policy flip-flops on palm oil exports. Zulkifli Hasan, former forestry minister, was named the new trade minister. The former trade minister, Muhammad Lutfi, had faced political pressure over policies to contain a surge in domestic cooking oil prices. Subsequently, Indonesia imposed a 3-week export ban on palm oil that sent shockwaves through global markets. Jokowi also announced changes to the Agrarian and Spatial Planning Ministry, appointing former Armed Force Chief Hadi Jajanto. Jajanto is tasked to resolve matters related to land disputes and land certificates. Jokowi has said several times during his tenure that he wants his government to solve land ownership problems, including how people have seized land parcels illegally. Meanwhile, Thailand's Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha is facing a no-confidence vote in Parliament. The opposition is set to grill his government on a range of issues, including corruption, economic mismanagement, and undermining democracy. The opposition parties submitted the no-confidence motion today, which also targets 10 senior members of Prayut's cabinet. The House is likely to hold a debate next month before voting on the motion. This is the opposition's fourth attempt to vote out Prayut since the elections in 2019. The PM and the ruling coalition are suffering a decline in popularity, highlighted by last month's Bangkok governor elections that saw pro-government candidates defeated by a former opposition figure. Food security is a global conversation, which we have joined following spikes in prices. How have policymakers, politicians, and the public understood its demands? Tonight on Consider This, we ask our guests how best to respond. That's all we have for you on Awani tonight. My name is Raya Mia. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again.
Bahmun semua padian, lihatlah Awani Borneo jam 7.